Hey guys, welcome and thanks so much for being here at the Teach with Tech online conference. I'm Shana and I teach middle school language arts and journalism. Today I am really excited to share with you one of my favorite digital grading tools. It involves Google Forms and a Google Sheets add-on called Autocrat. And basically what Autocrat does is automate the creation and sharing of digital documents in Google Drive through Google Forms submissions. So I'm going to share with you how I use Google Forms and Autocrat to create a digital rubric that is going to automatically share with students right in their Google Drive. So as you can imagine, this is a huge time saver for teachers because you're automating a task that's normally performed manually. And like any Google form, the results are automatically stored in a Google Sheet. So you have all of your student scores in one place, which is really beneficial for a variety of reasons, maybe say to reference at parent-teacher conferences or student conferences. And it's just, again, really helpful to have everything in one place. And students benefit from this as well because they're receiving their feedback much more quickly, and they also have everything nice and neat and organized right in their Google Drive. So I'm going to turn it over to my screen now so I can show you a little bit about what you'll need to get started, and I will walk you through the process. So here we go. Okay, I'm going to work backwards for just a minute so you can see what the end result might look like from the student's perspective. This is a speech presentation rubric for my students. They were giving speech presentations and I was on my iPad kind of assessing them as they performed. So this is what students would receive in their Google Drive. So here's like a mock student email. So it would have their Google Drive address, the title, and then the rubric with the points earned, and then any comments that I left. So this is what students see. Now in advance, you're going to need a couple things. So you are going to need to create a template which matches to the Google form. And you'll notice here, like I've got introduction, body, conclusion, some other things that I was assessing them on, and then comments right here. So this Google form I would recommend doing first. And then you will create your template here. And then upon your Google Forms submission, you're going to say, okay, this is what we got, add some comments here, and then you're going to hit submit. And this is what's going to be created from there. So pretty cool. A little bit upfront, to create the couple things that you need, but once you go through the process once or twice, it does become a lot easier. So let's see. To start, you are going to need a couple things. So the first thing you're going to need is the Autocrat add-on. And in case you're not familiar with add-ons, add-ons are these like cool little programs that extend the functionality of whatever Google app you're using. So in this case, we're using Google Sheets for the Autocrat add-on. So if you haven't ever, gotten an add-on, you're going to come up here to the file menu where it says add-ons and get add-ons. So these are all of the add-ons that are available, and again, these just extend the functionality of the Google app. So this is Google Sheets. So you're going to type in Autocrat. And I already have the Autocrat add-on, so mine says it's green and it says manage, but if you didn't have it, you would see this little blue button and it would say free, and you would just click on it, give it permission, and you can run from there. So you're going to need Autocrat, and then I also recommend to get roster sync. So that's actually this one right here. And again, I already have it, so you'll see the little green button here. But what roster sync does, which is really helpful, is you'll notice in my Google form, I have a spot for student emails. And obviously I've taken out my actual student emails, but you are going to need their emails or their Google Drive logins because this is how Autocrat knows to share the document with them. So instead of having to type in student emails one by one, because that's extremely time consuming and we don't have time for that, you can actually copy and paste them, and the way that you can do that is through roster sync. So I am not going to walk through the process of using roster sync because it's pretty straightforward, and if I did that, I would be syncing all of my student emails, which for obvious privacy reasons I don't want to do. So let's pretend I've launched roster sync and I'm good to go, and then I just created like a list of student emails real quick right here. So what you're going to do is copy and paste them into your Google form. So I've got the Autocrat add-on, I've got roster sync, I've got my student emails, so I'm just going to copy them right here. Now, I'm going to come over to the rubric that I'm creating in Google Forms. And the first thing I put name and then parentheses email, because I'm actually not writing the student name, I'm just using their email because the name's in the email and I know who they are. So what you're going to do is basically choose the drop-down menu. You don't want to choose, well, you could choose multiple choice, but I like the drop-down menu because it doesn't take up too much space. And then you're just going to come right here in the first option and you're going to paste. And notice that every student email that was on a separate row in my Google Sheet over here, see, has automatically, one by one been added. So I didn't have to copy and paste each line individually. I could just copy and it did it for me. So that's pretty cool. So that is the first step, I would say. And then you have this Google Sheet that has all of your student emails. So it's really easy to copy anytime you want to create a Google Forms / Autocrat rubric. So in here, I'm basically going to use Google Forms, as one would do, to create the rubric. So again, this is a rubric for a speech presentation. So I have, my introduction category. I added a description here for just my purposes, and it sometimes adds descriptions as defaults and sometimes doesn't. So if you are in Google Forms and you don't see this little spot to add a description, just come right over here to these three little dots and description. Okay, so that is how you would add this little guy right here. So I've got all the things I want to assess them on, and then at the bottom here I have a spot for comments. So you probably know that when you grade or assess, you generally find yourself making the same comments over and over again. So I did a checkbox. You want to do checkboxes because this allows you to check more than one thing. If you do multiple choice, it only lets you choose one. So these were things like the first time I went through, I noticed, okay, you're fidgeting, you spoke a little fast, great eye contact, etc. So these were just very generic comments that I can just check, as I go. And then you're going to add like an other section here for, your individual personalized comments. So that's that. And when it's all said and done, it looks like this. So this is what I would have on my iPad while students are performing. And notice, let's see, let me preview the new one. Okay, so notice now my emails are all in this drop down. So student A is performing, so I'm going to select them. And I just kind of go down the line. And okay, and now again with the comments, I can check more than one if I want. I'm just checking random things, and then I can also type in whatever I want here. I wouldn't normally write that as a comment, but I couldn't think of anything else on the spot. So I'm going to hit submit. Oh, required. Okay. And you want to make sure that you have your Google Forms set to allow multiple responses, because if you just click submit another response, it's going to bring up a new Google Form. So you don't have to do too much work. You can just easily go on to the next one. And that is going to be in the settings. Sometimes you have limit to one response. Sometimes it's unchecked. So it kind of just depends on your organization's preferences. So, all right, I've got my rubric. I'm good to go. So now I want to go to Google Docs and make my template. And what I'm going to do, again, you can make your rubric look however you want. This is just how I made mine look because I think it looks pretty. So I made a table, and you just go to insert table, and you can, do whatever you want, as many rows and columns as you'd like. And I put the Google Form rubric categories here, so introduction, body, conclusion. Now, the tricky part here, well, not tricky, but the trickier part is the points earned. So in yellow right here, I highlighted this just because I wanted to. But in yellow, you'll notice these little tags here. So it's like the little greedy duck sign, introduction, greedy duck, body, conclusion. These directly match up with the rubric categories on the Google form. So introduction, body, conclusion, introduction, body, conclusion. This is case sensitive, meaning it has to be exactly as written. Like if I had a lowercase I instead of the capital I that's in my Google form, it wouldn't work. And that was actually the first mistake that I made when I did this for the first time. was like, why isn't this working? And it was because it was case sensitive. And so I actually, even though it's really simple, like I can spell that on my own, but I would just copy and paste because, again, you want to make sure that everything is exact. So I've got my rubric, and again, it matches here. And then I made a little spot for them for the comments. And again, I've got my tag. So these tags are how Autocrat knows to merge the data. Okay. So I've got my Google form, I've got my Google Doc template, and now I'm ready to run Autocrat. Okay, so you probably know that when you submit a Google form, that information is automatically stored in a Google Sheet. So to get that Google Sheet, you're going to come over here. So you've got your questions. You're going to see this little tab, Responses. Now, this is going to show me a summary of my responses here, but you also can get to it from this little button right here. So I'm going to view my responses in Sheets. Now, if it's the first time you're creating it, it's going to ask you, like, do you want to create a Google Sheet? You're going to say yes, and this is what it looks like. So you can do this. We're basically going to set up Autocrat now. You can do this in the very beginning before you have any responses, or you can do it at the end. But if you want to use the automation tool where it automatically sends it to students, like right when you hit submit on the Google form, you'd want to do it in the beginning. So yeah, here we go. All right, so I am going to run Autocrat. So I'm going to come up here to add-ons. I'm going to come down to Autocrat, and I'm going to open. So this is basically where I'm going to set up Autocrat and tell it all of the things that it needs to know in order to, run the automation features. So just wait for it to load. Sometimes it's faster than other times. Okay, so I already have a job here, but I'm going to delete it and start over. Okay, so new job right here at the bottom. Okay, so job name, this doesn't really matter too much. You just want to make sure that it makes sense to you. So I'm just going to say speech rubric and hit next. Okay, so I've used this before. So these are my recently used templates. If you have not used this before, you're going to choose the template from your drive. So you've already created, this is the Google Doc that you've created. So you have created the doc in Docs, and you're going to select it here. So speech rubric for Autocrat and select. But again, you'll see mine is down here because I've already used it before. Okay, so now I'm good to go. Currently selected template. I'm going to hit next. Now, map source data to template. This is basically how Autocrat knows. These are the tags from the Google Doc that I showed you, and these are the categories in the Google form. So you just want to do a quick check. It usually maps it correctly, but you just want to do a quick check to make sure everything looks good. So introduction, introduction, body, body, conclusion, conclusion, etc. Everything looks good. So I'm going to hit next. Okay, file name. So this is where you are telling Autocrat how to name each of the files it creates. These little greedy duck signs here are like what open the tags, and I'm going to, I always like to put my student email as a tag so that when it's shared with them in their Google Drive, it has their name on it, which makes it easier for them to search. And so I'm just going to come over here, and I have name and email. And again, you want it, it has to be exact, case sensitive, spaces in the right spot, everything. So I'm just going to copy and paste that. So where am I? Okay. So my little tags here. So now it's going to, autofill this with the student email once it's ready. So then I'm just going to speech rubric. Okay, so type is going to be a Google Doc. You could do a PDF as well, but I do Google Docs. Multiple output mode is what you want to check. It's going to be checked automatically. This is where it creates multiple docs. So it's going to create one doc for each Google Form submission, which is what you want in this case. For other functions, a single output mode would create like one doc with all of the information. But because we want to share this with students, we don't want single output mode. We want multiple output mode. So I'm going to click that and hit next. Choose destination folder. This is where you choose like where all of those files are going to go, all of those individual docs, because basically it's going to share them with students, but you're going to get a copy too. So you want to probably create a new folder to house everything. Otherwise, your Google Drive is going to be a little disorganized. Mine's kind of disorganized, but I did create a folder here. So you could choose the folder. I'm just going to go with this one because I already have it. Dynamic folder reference, I don't do anything with this. Merge condition, I don't do anything here. Okay, share doc and send emails. So I am going to click yes, I want to share the doc. I want to share the doc as a view only. Allow collaborators to reshare. So if this were like a group presentation, I'd use this for group projects too. You share it with like the one person who maybe submitted the assignment on Google Classroom, and then they can share it with everybody else. So I click yes for this. Send from generic no reply email or reply address. So if your students have email with their Google Drive logins, then you can actually have Autocrat email them the rubric as well. My students, unfortunately, they have Google Drive logins. They have access to all of the Google apps except Gmail. So I choose yes, generic no reply address, because otherwise it's going to send me a whole bunch of bounce backs. Like it's going to try to send the emails and then they're all going to come back to me, and I don't want to do that. So okay, and then so I just fill this in because it doesn't let me not fill it in. But again, I haven't used this feature because my students do not have Gmail accounts. Gmail accounts. So anyway, I'm going to fill this out here and click next. Okay, so job triggers. This is basically, do you want it to create the doc and share it automatically, like right when you hit submit on Google Forms? Or do you want to run everything at the end? If this is your first time, you might want to just run everything at the end, but I'm going to click yes. So this is going to, actually I'll click no for now and then I'll come back. So run on form trigger, I'm going to say no. Run on time trigger. So let's say you wanted to just run everything at like 3:30 right after school. So you would hit yes on that, but I'm going to click no for both of these. I'm going to come back and I'll show you the form trigger in a second. So okay, I've got everything here. So I'm going to click save. Now it's going to save my job. So then I'm basically going to, now I've got Autocrat set up, and I'm going to, let's see. Okay, so I've got Autocrat set up, and now I basically have to come in and run the job. I already ran the job, it looks like, so this is basically what happens. So let me just kind of go backwards for a second. So let's pretend I didn't run the job yet. So these are all of my scores my students have presented. My Autocrat is set up to run manually, so I am ready to send everything out. So I'm going to come back up to add-ons. I'm going to come over here to Autocrat, and I'm going to open it, and it's going to bring up the screen that I was just on. And then basically all I have to do now is just click the Run Job button, and then it's going to do the magic of creating the template. Okay, so I don't know what's going on here. I thought I deleted that. Anyway, okay, so speech rubric, I'm just going to click this little play button, and then it's going to run the job. But I already ran the job, so I'm going to get out of that real quick. So this is what it looks like once the job has been run. You'll see that there is the merge doc URL. So I'm going to click on that just to show you what it looks like. So remember here where I put the tags of the student email, now you'll see it says like studenta@gmail.com speech rubric, and then these are all of the points that they received, and these are all of the comments that I checked on the little check boxes. So this is what students are going to see. And again, because I ran the job, this is automatically shared with students in their Google Drive. So they would have to go to the Shared With Me section of their Google Drive to find it. Okay, so I'm going to come back up here. Open. So now I'm going to change my job so that it runs on the form trigger, which means that I immediately hit send on my, or submit on my Google form, and it's going to automatically run the job, so I don't have to do it manually. The first couple times I did this, I set it to do it myself, so to run manually, but once I got more familiar with it, I set it to run automatically. So I'm going to go through these steps here. I've already done this, so I know that it's right. So job triggers, now I'm going to say yes, run on form trigger. And I'm going to save. So now I'm going to fill out the rubric. Okay, so student email, let's pretend I've got a student, they are given their speech, introduction was good, da-da-da. I'm going to hit submit. Oh, low battery. Okay. So I've hit submit, and now I'm going to come over to the rubric. So if you noticed, it automatically popped up. It was pretty quick. It automatically popped up. So this is the student that I just did, and it automatically merged the document here. So I didn't have to go back in and run the job. It automatically did all of that stuff for me. So that's pretty cool. So that's basically Autocrat. You create the template in Google Docs. You create the Google form that matches the template, and actually I would do the Google form first. Then you submit your responses. All of the responses are sent to this handy little sheet, and then you got your rubrics. And again, they're automatically shared with students, so there's nothing that you really have to do. You don't have to pass anything back. It's automatically there, right there for students. Okay, so now basically what I want to do is I want to get the total of these scores, because I have to put these into my gradebook, and I want like the total score, not just like the individual rubric boxes. So this doesn't have anything to do with Autocrat, but this is just like a quick Google form or Google Sheets like formula. I'm going to come over here to like the first category, and I'm going to right-click, insert column left. And this is going to be my final score. So now I'm basically just going to have Google Sheets do the math for me. And this is like another thing that I love about using digital tools is I don't have to do the math, which is just not fun. Sorry, math teachers. But it also saves time because you're not adding things up on your own. So I'm going to do this little equal sign here, and I'm going to type in sum, because this is what I want to do. I want to get the sum of the scores. So sum, and then I'm going to open it up with parentheses. Now I'm going to click in the first thing here. So this is D2. You'll notice it shows up here, D2. Now hold down the Shift key, and then come to the farthest row that you want to, or farthest column that you want to highlight, and it's going to highlight it all at one time. So notice this is I2. So I've got D2 to I2, and I'm going to close that off with my parentheses. So now I've got, okay, this person had 25 points. So if I were using the point system, I could put 25 in my gradebook, but I actually use percentages, so I want to get the percentage too. So this is actually out of 27 points. So I'm going to come back in here, double click, and I'm just going to have it do some division for me real quick. So I'm going to do /27, and now I've got the percentage. I just want to come up here to format as %, and then decrease the decimal places a little bit. So now I've got my nice percentage here, and you see this little blue square. I'm going to click and drag all the way down, and now I've got my math, my percentage scores. So now I can just pull up my gradebook. I could do a split screen if I wanted to, side by side, and I could automatically put everything in. Let's say my student emails were not in alphabetical order. I could just as easily do that as well. I'm going to or just click on this little arrow here, and then sort sheet A through Z. So this would just make it a little bit easier when I'm putting the scores into the gradebook. So now I've got everything I need and we're good to go. I hope that you found this tutorial helpful, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about anything at all. I will share some resources with you to help you get started, so I'll share the Google Doc template that I created so you can use that and modify it as you need, and also the Google Form rubric. So hopefully you give it a chance. I know it does seem like a lot of work up front. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get the hang of it, you will love it. This has really been a game changer for me in the classroom, and I am so excited to share it with you. So again, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions at all, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.